Ah, there we go. Cook Doug just right. Cook him just right. Huh? Oh, sorry. Didn't see you guys there. Um, I'm not eating Doug the bug. I would never. See, look, he's perfectly fine. See, he's perfectly fine. This is his cousin, Joanne. Now, get out of here. Anyways, today I'll be showing a little bit more advanced things that you guys can learn and you can use to get better. Go away. So, yeah. Without further ado, let's move on to the first thing that's more advanced. Doug, I said go away. All right. So branches, very simple, but it can be pretty difficult. You just got to know what you're doing here. So, go away. Basically, to put. Don't make me eat you. Anyways, so to put it simply, I don't like you. I mean, I like you, but because you're good to eat. But go away. Anyways, so basically, branching can be pretty simple, but it can be pretty difficult as well. Well, to learn to branch, I recommend starting over here. When I first started learning to branch, this is the area that I used. I recommend going on a tree, and starting off with one that's easy to jump on, and taking your time, taking it slow, just going to branch, seeing how each and every branch feels, and then eventually you can add things into it to make things more difficult and make it better for you in the long run. Alright, so like I said before, I recommend starting over this side of the map. As you can see, we have gazebo over here. This is basically what we're looking at right here. So I recommend going right here, starting on this branch. We're going to just do something simple. A thing that I did a lot was I practiced going from this branch here to this branch to up here. So that raises the question of when should you add more advanced stuff into it? Well, I recommend starting off by going slow with these branches. Until you can get these branches down, until you can get it down, this just basic thing from going over there to here. Until you can get that down, I recommend going slow. Then once you can actually do it, then add some speed into it. Speed. How do you add speed to your branches? Pretty simple concept, but it's one that you have to get used to. So once you have this whole thing down of just doing this slowly over time, right? Once you have that down, you're going to then add more force to it. That way you can then get a little bit faster. Now don't start off by just learning to go slow and then adding a whole bunch of force. Chances are you're most likely going to fail, if I'm being completely honest with you. So what that means is that I would recommend instead you add more force over time until you can. But just, adding force isn't the only thing that gives you more speed when branching. There's another thing, and this is probably the most simple part. Can you go away before I eat you? There's a more simple part. And what that is that you want to take these branches, right? Take these branches, and you want to hit the branches less as possible. So a good example of this would be if I am just starting out, I'll probably hit these branches a lot before I get up here. But if you want to add more speed, more power, and less taps is what's going to be better. So you should really only have to hit a branch once or twice if you want to add speed into it. So I would recommend just starting out, add speed over time. Try to lower the amount of times you hit the branches over time until eventually you can speed up and you can get that thing down over and over again, faster and faster, until you have speed. I'm going to eat you. You know what? You come here. I'm cooking you. There we go. I'm eating Doug the bug. Num 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 num. That was good. Anyways, now that the Doug problem is handled, we're just gonna ignore that. Now, you've probably heard a lot of people say stick to one tree to get it down, and to get that one tree down. But you might be wondering why. The reason why is because each one of these trees are the exact same. That means they're just scaled differently. So I'll show a couple examples of that. We'll first use the tree that we have been using to do this as our first example. So, as you can see, this branch that we have been hitting right here, the first branch we use right here is the same branch as this right here. As you can see, this branch isn't as long, but it's the same thing. And we still have this part here that, yes, you can take advantage of. So that's the exact same branch. So if you can learn how this branch works, and you know that this branch is here, well, because you've been practicing that out, you know that this branch is here. A good example of that is, you know that this branch is here, which is that branch. So you know that that branch is just this branch, just different size. So what I'm trying to get to here is stick to probably about 3 branches. I recommend sticking to branch 1, branch 2, and branch 3. You're going to stick to those 3 branches because then you'll be able to realize that since these branches are the same, as you can see, I can master going back and forth between these branches. So that means that I could go over to this tree right here, and now that I've mastered those ones, I could take what I've learned from that to do on the other ones. So as an example, I would know that if I jump from these branches here, it is the exact same as if I am jumping from these branches here, because the branches are the same, they're just scaled differently. So master going between those 3 branches until you've mastered that. So, for example, when I did this, I used 3 different trees. First, this one we've been using. Second, this one I used for examples, and this one. So, what are you going to do? You are going to either go into a game or spend time in a private lobby, only going between these 3 trees. Reason is because then you can learn the layout of these 3 trees, and at the same time, you can learn what you need to do, and at the same time, you'll be able to learn where all these branches are, and learn these trees. And since they are all the same tree, just different scaled, well, I mean, you'll learn all the trees doing that way. Now, what is a route? A route is when you go on one path that you have mastered, one path that you can stay on, and you can do as many times as you need to escape the lava monkeys. Now, there are people that don't have routes. I'm one of them. I don't have routes. I mainly stick to my free branching. But there's still something I'd recommend. And that simple thing would be have something similar you do, or at least have something similar you do, or even if you don't like doing routes, have a couple routes in your pocket just in case. Switch things up. A very good example of this is I like to use this branch here. This is the same branch you're practicing on over there. How do I like to use this branch though? I like to take this branch, jump onto here, jump to my next branch, and launch myself up. That's something I'd like to do similarly. Another example could be something like over here. I like to get the stump by doing this. I jump onto this branch. Remember, it is the same branch. This branch is the same, and this. Now, something you may realize is that this platform isn't the same spot as over here. So you will have, and that's something that is the case. The platforms aren't in the same spot in all the trees. Some of them you are, but most of them not. So you will have to get used to knowing where the platforms are. But that's something that can easily be taken care of. So how do you free branch? Well, free branching involves something like this. You just go through and you do random things like that, right? Pretty simple. Just start doing random things. That's all it is. Just branch and do the most random things you do. Whatever comes into your mind, if you can do it, then do it. So this is something that was really good. It'll throw off the lava monkeys chasing you. And even if they can do the same thing and they can follow you, then if you need to, you can come up with something on the spot that can trick them. Now we're going to actually do scaling itself. Now, there's 2 ways to scale. There's 2 ways to scale a tree, one being more efficient than the other. The easy way is to grab around the tree and do something called bear climbing. This is the same thing we did with the double walls of pinch climbing. We're just going to go around the tree. And we're just going to go around the tree. All the way around, dodging the branches while pinch climbing. Until you're at the top. Now, bear climbing was the simple way. Now we have the more advanced way, and it is the better way to do this. I'm going to jump to it, land on the branch, and I'm going to throw myself up to the next branch. And I'm going to go to the next branch and do the same. And we're going to keep going all the way up until we are at the top. Next, we're going to go on to walls. Now, there's two places that I recommend learning walls at. Either right here, then another good place to learn walls at is right here. Now that we said the options and you decided which one you want to go to, now learn to wall climb. Now, a lot of people I find they want to jump right into wall running. And yeah, you can do that, but here's my issue with jumping right into that. What's the point in wall running if you're just going to go across the wall diagonally like this, diagonally like that, and you're low to the ground, so Lava Monkey can just go, boom, you're tagged. What's the point of that? You may know how to do it, but you're not getting anything out of it. If you have watched a J-Man video and you've seen him describing how to do this, you may have seen him describe doing this like Frozone. How does Frozone do it though? Well, that is something that I can easily show you. If you're curious what I'm talking about, go ahead and take your arms and kind of go like this. It's kind of a weird motion, but kind of go like this. You see how I'm doing this? This is basically what Frozone from The Incredibles does. Remember this. This is what you're going to do. How are we going to use this? So we're going to jump up to the wall, and I'm going to face the side of the wall that face the side of the wall that my arm is facing. As you can see, I'm going like this. I'm facing the side of the wall with my body. I am turning in real life to face this side of the wall, and then I'm doing the thing that Frozone does to launch myself up. So let's get into that. So what you want to do here is take advantage of that. Wall climbing and wall running, take advantage of that. So you're going to wait a second. Once you reach the first one, you're going to wait a second. See, I wait. I can make sure I've grabbed onto this. So you can still do it fast, as you can see, but you're going to need to make sure you know how you're supposed to be doing it correctly. Also, a little note, I recommend taking it slow, and yeah, make sure you take it slow. Alright, boom. You have mastered getting up to the wall just fine. So, now that we're at the top, now that we can get to the top every single time, perfectly fine. Now we're going to start wall running. You're going to come over here, you're going to start from where you're at, right? You're going to go over, you're going to go over, and your hand is going to go straight, up and down, like this, up and down, and you're going to send yourself more on the, and you're just going to keep yourself up here. Now, if you can find a part of the wall where the wall slants, kind of like how this does, well then you can get, kind of like how Slippery Walls Up Here does, it is kind of a little bit easier because you can just sit there for longer from what I've found. But just know, Slippery Walls Up Here are way more advanced, and we won't be getting into how to do all that stuff until a later video. Now, once you can go to one side perfectly fine, practice turning and going on the other hand. So, just keep going back and forth. A good example of this is that I may be a branch main, but I can do this perfectly fine. But originally, I had difficulties with my left hand, so it took me more practice and time to get used to it. So I recommend practicing both at the same time. Switch back and forth every once in a while, so that both hands get used to it faster, and you don't have to spend time individually with each hand. Also, another thing to note is there's another way to actually do it entirely. There's entirely other way to do it is you take your hand and you kind of go like this. You kind of do like a weird motion. You see what I'm doing here? Take your hand and you bring it out and in, and you hit yourself up. This is this motion again. You see how I'm going like this? Kind of like doing it in circles, but I'm hitting myself up here. Now I'm going to show you all of these in just normal third person. As you can see, I am going up the wall perfectly fine. I'm not using any advanced things. I'm doing exactly what I taught you. Going up the wall. As you can see, I'm doing exactly what I taught you on the wall here. I'm staying up here and doing this completely. It takes practice, but you can get it down. Whee! Now, I want to say practice, practice, practice. Practice is everything in this game. Any game that you play sports, well, you need to practice to get good at that. An example would be, let's say you aren't good at making three-pointers. Well, then you want to be able to do that. You would go and you'd practice that over and over and over until you eventually can do it perfectly fine. That's the best example I'm going to be able to. That's the best example I'm going to be able to give you. And as always, guys, remember, Jesus is Lord.